Hi, so this video is going to be a demonstration of the Theresa Brioche Stitch, which is a variation on the original Brioche Stitch, which is featured in Nancy Marchand's book about brioche knitting. So now that I got that out of the way, basically I came across this stitch because I was trying to recreate something that I saw in a catalog that was machine made and was no longer available to buy. And I thought, what better way than to just make it myself? And it was really fun to learn the process of this because it's something I've never tried before. And at first it was quite complicated. The reason being her stitches are kind of, her abbreviations are not so clear at first, especially because you can't see them worked out by just reading the instructions in the book. So now that I've got this worked out for myself, I was really excited to be able to share it and hopefully help people not struggle the way I did. So this is how the stitch looks. You can see here we've got some columns that are almost like straight columns of stockinette, and then in between, when you stretch it out, which is how you would wear it, you would get to see all of this detail that's in between. And basically this is done just by repeating 4 different rows over and over. So here I'm making a cowl. This is about 15 inches long, and it's going to be, I'm halfway done, so it's going to be about double this, and then I'm going to seam together the ends. So this could be used to make a lot of different things, and in the coming minutes I'm going to demonstrate how I learned how to do this in the easiest way that I found. Okay, so before I cast on, I just want to mention that I'm going to make this video, I'm going to make a two-parter. In the first part, I'm going to do the first 2 rows of the Theresa stitch, and in the second part, I'm going to do the second 2 rows. That way it's a little bit more concise and not overwhelming. Okay, so I'm using regular worsted weight yarn. I frog this a ton of times, so I'm sorry that it looks so rough. And then I'm using size 10.5 needles just so it's easier to see my stitches. Okay, so I'm going to do a long tail cast on, and when you cast on for the Theresa, it has to be an odd number of stitches. It can't be even. So whatever odd number you want to do. And I'm going to do a long tail cast on just because that's how I prefer. I think the edges look better when you do it this way. I'm just going to cast on like 9 just for the sake of the video. Ooh. Didn't know how many I had there. Okay, 1. Okay, so that's 9. Now I'm going to turn this around. You're going to get ready to do whatever you're going to do for the pattern. I'm going to move, make sure my tail is out of the way. And then I'm going to bring my yarn in front because I'm going to purl the first stitch. So I'm just going to bring this behind me here. Wow. Okay, so I'm going to purl the first stitch. Okay, now that I purled the first stitch, I'm going to leave the yarn where it is in the front. But having the yarn in the front, holding it tightly, I'm going to slip the next stitch purlwise. Alright. And then now that I've done that, I'm going to take the yarn that's in the front and yarn over. So to come over, it needs to come all the way around and be in the front position again. Over here. And by doing that, you're setting up to purl again. Okay, so now that we've done that purl, we are going to take another one, slip another one purlwise, and then yarn over again, ready to purl. Sorry, these needles are plastic and I really hate how they cling to each other. Anyway, now that I've purled again, I'm going to slip another one purlwise, ready to purl again. Now I'm going to slip another one purlwise, yarn over, ready to purl again. And the last stitch should always be a purl, and if it's not, on this first row, the last stitch should always be a purl. If it's not, if you get to where you think you're doing a slip one, then you've done something wrong. Either that or you don't have an odd number. Okay, so at this stage, let me wait till this focuses. You've got a series of like crossovers where there's yarn on top of 2 other stitches, and that's exactly how it has to be for a brioche, especially this stitch. So now I'm going to turn this around and I'm going to do the second row and then we'll leave it at that so that can kind of soak in. Okay, so here we go. Now yarn is in front again because the first stitch is going to be a purl. So I'm going to go in, purl the first stitch, come off nice and tight. Okay, now this is where it gets a little bit different, but still not difficult as long as you pay attention to what you're doing. Here we've got 2 stitches grouped together, or you'll be able to see this, the more of this you do, you'll be able to see where there's pairs and when you should purl the pairs together. But right here, instead of slipping just 1 purlwise, we're going to slip 2 purlwise. So after you slip those 2 purlwise, you're going to yarn over again, ready to purl. So basically it's the same concept as the first row, you're just purling you're just slipping 2 instead of slipping 1. So we've purled that one, so now we're going to slip those 2. Oop, and that didn't work. Yarn over, ready to purl. Now we've purled that, slip those 2, yarn over, ready to purl. And I always tell myself this, it helps a lot if you talk to yourself. I know it sounds ridiculous, but if you say slip 2, ready to purl, slip 2, ready to purl, so you'll know exactly what you're doing. This is not one of those kinds of projects that you can sit down and come back with not really remembering where you were, because you will definitely forget. So now we're going to slip these 2, yarn over, purl the last stitch. Okay, so now we've done 2 rows of the Theresa Brioche Stitch, and it's going to look a little crazy. You're going to be like, oh my gosh, what do I even do with this? But it's really not that bad. You just need to, instead of being used to seeing just single stitches, you're going to have to get used to seeing these clusters of stitches and knowing how to process and work with those. So hopefully in the next couple of videos that will become more apparent, and I hope that this is at least help you get started, whereas maybe you didn't know where to go at first. And so there we go. Thanks again for watching. The next video, part 2, will feature how to do rows 3 and 4 of the Theresa stitch, and then once you have that, you can do the whole pattern and work it over and over and include it in any kind of pattern you want, like scarves, sweaters, blankets. So please keep watching. I'll have that out, and you can just go directly over there. So thank you.